Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a giant issue. I am Coach Gene Clemens, and this is episode number one. Let the light shine. Let the light shine. Um, Wanted to come on today and have an opportunity to look back at the Giants draft, look at all of the draft picks that the Giants made, give my opinion on what I not only thought about the pick, but what I think about the player and how the player can fit into what the Giants are doing. If you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Every Monday, 6 a.m., you're going to find me right here on my YouTube channel with this Giant-specific webcast, a good 20 to 30 minutes every Monday at 6 p.m., where I talk to you about all of the hot button topics that are happening in the world of the Giants. If you don't read any of my content, make sure that you check that out on giantscountry.com. Shout out to Patricia Traina and everybody over at Giants Country when we try to bring you all of the stuff that you love about your G-men. Let's start with the number one pick for the Giants, Kayvon Thibodeaux. I think one thing we have to remember is that through a lot of mocks, including mine, Thibodeaux wasn't expected to be there. And who we thought would be there would be one of the two defensive backs, either Derek Stingley Jr., who I believe is the best defensive back in the draft, or Sauce Gardner, who I know a lot of Giants fans and Giants pundits believe should be the pick for the Giants. But I mentioned in my mock draft that if for some reason Thibodeaux got to number 5, that he would be the pick of the Giants, because you cannot teach what Thibodeaux brings to the table. And so as much as I know that giving draft grades, it's kind of foolhardy because it's like giving a grade for a test before the person took the test. We have to have a way to be able to look at these things. And so I would say for the value that they received at number 5, that had to be an A+. What Thibodeaux brings to the table for the Giants. We know that in Coach Wink's defense, it's going to be multiple. It's going to be violent. It's going to be fast. It's going to be a lot of man-to-man, but it's going to be bringing a lot of exotic blitzes from everywhere. And who gives you the ability to maximize their athleticism better than Kayvon Thibodeaux at defensive end? Because he could be your traditional 5, 7, 9 technique defensive end. Or he can be your 34 stand-up outside linebacker. Or he has an ability to be able to kick inside and rush the passer from the inside. He's athletic enough to cover. You could put him on a tight end and let him cover the tight end. I think what happened is that the Giants looked at Micah Parsons from last year and said, we can't afford to let that happen again. We can't afford to let a talent of that magnitude get by us again. And so we end up with Kayvon Thibodeaux as the number one pick for the Giants. And I absolutely love the pick. I believe that Thibodeaux has an opportunity to be a really productive football player. I will warn you all, though, stop trying to turn these guys into 15 and 16 and 17 sack people. Double-digit sacks is difficult. It normally happens when you have a team that can allow you, the person, to go off. Usually, a guy touches double digits and then maybe touches double digits twice, 3 times. But you don't normally see someone touching double-digit sacks on a year-in, year-out basis. Even the Watts have a shelf life. JJ was great. 4 years, 5 years, done. Like, shell of himself. I believe TJ Watt will be the same way. But I think if you could get Thibodeaux to be a disruptor, that's what you really want. You add him as a disruptor with an Azeez Ojulari, who's a disruptor, with a Leonard Williams, who's a disruptor. And now you have several different people from different parts of the defensive line who are disruptive. You can have a really successful defensive line where everybody gets 8 to 9, maybe 10 sacks. So now if you've got 3 people in that 8, 9, 10 sack range, and then you sprinkle in the 2, 3 sacks for the other people, that is a really good pass rushing team, and not necessarily just relying upon one person. So if Thibodeaux comes out and has 8 sacks, 9 sacks, it doesn't mean that he wasn't worth the first round number 5 overall pick. It means that he's doing the job in the manner it's supposed to be, because hopefully the sack numbers of those other guys increase as well. On to our second pick, Evan Neal, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. Now, full disclosure, I believe that Charles Cross would have been a pick right here that would have been great, because Charles Cross is a better pass blocking offensive tackle than Evan Neal is right now. I think that Evan Neal, however, is probably the most complete offensive lineman in this draft. I think he is good as a run blocker. He is good as a pass blocker. But I believe that Ekwonu was the best run blocker. I believe that Cross was the best pass blocker. I believe that Neal is the best combination of both, and he's massive. And he's played the most meaningful snaps of anybody in this draft. He's been high pressure, high leverage ever since he stepped foot out of high school. He's always had the pressure on him to perform. And I think that's why he's been successful and why he will be successful for the Giants. I give this pick at number 7 an A+. I know that some people thought that the Giants should trade down. A lot of people thought the Giants should trade down and take their chances with, collecting more bites at the apple, as I've heard people call it. But I think when you get an opportunity to add 2 prospects that are going to come in and start right now, that's a home run. And so after day 1, Schoen had an A+ for me. I believe that he was on the right track. I believe he was doing the right thing. I went to sleep, and I know he went to sleep feeling fantastic. And then day 2 hit. And once day 2 hit, everything changed. It was weird because I've seen people say that Schoen thought that it was important to go for plus talent or plus athletic attributes. And so the Wan'Dale Robinson pick in the second round wasn't necessarily surprising in the fact that he's a really athletic guy. And I know that with the way in which things are going with Kadarius Toney, that they may end up moving on from him, and Robinson would be a nice replacement. Some would say an even better receiver than Toney was. And so I understand that. But what I didn't understand is at that position there were so many real legitimate needs that were still out there that they could have added a legitimate starter. They could have added a linebacker that would have been a legitimate starter for them. They could have added a cornerback that would have had an opportunity to be a legitimate starter for them. They could have added a safety that would have been a legitimate starter for them, but they didn't. They went wide receiver and they got Robinson. And Robinson is a guy, in my opinion, who has Tyreek Hill-like ability. I think he's in the mold of these do-everything type receivers. These guys who have running back ability and receiving ability and speed to burn. I really liked the pick. I just thought that there were other places that of need that was higher. Like I think it's great that they went out and got all of these kind of journeyman offensive linemen to come in. But I don't think that's how you make it happen. I think you need to add a legitimate center. I think you needed to add a legitimate center prospect. So those things were still out there for them to do. And they didn't go guard. They didn't go center. They didn't go linebacker. They didn't go defensive back at all in that position. And I thought that was the opportunity they had. So I gave that pick a C+. I gave it a C+ because I really like the pick, but I don't like it at that position because of what I thought they could have gotten at the second pick. Then they came down for the third round. The third round, they had 2 picks. And the first pick, they picked Josh Ezeudu out of the offensive tackle out of North Carolina, who we believe is going to kick inside to play guard at the next level. Now, I actually like this pick because I believe offensive guard, tackle, a guy who can kind of do everything that's younger to plug with these other guys is necessary. So I like the fact that he's a guard. I mean, he's a tackle. He has legitimate tackle experience. I like the idea that he can kick inside and learn some guard, possibly elevate himself to that swing position where he could be a guard and or a tackle and be like a 6th man off the bench. I did once again believe that there were talents out there that trumped what he brought to the table at other positions. There were still linebackers out there to be had. There were still safeties out there to be had at this point. And they decided to go, and cornerbacks, they decided to go a different way. Pick number 81 in the third round, the second third round pick. They took Cordell Flott out of LSU. This was when I was like, And my apologies to Flott. I hope he has a successful season. It's nothing against him. I just believed that there were other cornerback talents that I believed you could not let go beyond this round. I believe that, there were taller, longer, bigger, more athletic cornerbacks that were there who actually have more playmaking ability, or at least who have shown to have more playmaking ability than Flott has. Obviously, Flott has played against elite level competition and with elite level competition. And I even said in my write-up that I believe that the Giants leaned on that when they were making the decision on whether to go with him over maybe, say, guys like Zion McCollum from Sam Houston, or even the gentleman out of UTSA, whose name is escaping me right now, but it'll come back to me while we're talking, because they were still available in the 4th round. Now, in the 4th round, they went with Daniel Bellinger. They had 2 picks in the 4th round, and the first 4th round pick that they chose was Daniel Bellinger, who came out of San Diego State. Now, I thought this was a good but not great pick. They picked up a pass blocking tight end that has some receiving ability, especially in play action. But he's not a pass blocking, a run blocking, because he comes from a run blocking system. Do I think he's a plus in the pass game? No. Do I think that he has an opportunity to possibly get better? Yeah. But Isaiah Likely was still out there at that time. And I was like, Isaiah Likely is, to me, he was to me one of those guys that you really had to look at. But I look at the pick and say, well, in the 4th round, I believe the Buccaneers took Cade Otton, who was a guy who had run blocking ability and some pass reception. So I'm thinking possibly on the Giants board, it probably went Otton and then Bellinger, because they were looking for a run blocking tight end with pass blocking skill, with pass receiving skills. So if you're looking for a run blocking tight end with pass receiving skills, okay, that's not Isaiah Likely. However, if you're looking for someone that's going to be dynamic in the pass game, that's not either one of those two guys that I named before. That's Isaiah Likely. And so I gave and I didn't tell you grades, by the way, I apologize. I gave the Azudu grade a B. I gave the Flott grade a C+. I gave the Bellinger grade a C+ as well. And that brought us to round number 4, pick 114, Dane Belton, who I believe was a really good pick as a second level safety. And with the speed that he showed, possibly has an opportunity to be a third level safety. They addressed a need. And that's what I liked about the Bellinger selection. They needed a tight end. They got a tight end in the 4th round. They needed a safety. They got a safety in the 4th round. Belton is a guy who I believe has ball skills and instincts that can help a team. I do think that he's somebody that has some limitations, but you can't deny those ball skills. And at this level, having a guy with those plus ball skills and a body that can match up with tight ends, that's going to be something really awesome if he continues to build on some of the weaknesses that he has shown in his time in college. And so I think as a guy from Iowa, you have to feel like, well, he's been coached well, because they do a great job of getting guys prepared in Iowa. Some of the other stuff we're not going to talk about, but great job of getting guys prepared at Iowa. And so you've got to think that's a part of what they're going to get from him early on. I gave that a B+ grade, getting a talent like that in the 4th round. In the 5th round, another guy that was a guy that I thought the Giants should have in their fold, Micah McFadden, linebacker out of Indiana. I love the pick at that point in the draft. Now, do I think they should have addressed linebacker earlier because there were some guys that I liked better than McFadden? Absolutely. But I thought getting McFadden in the 5th round was a great selection of a guy who has an ability to get better and grow, maybe learn behind the starters and possibly work himself into a role. But I actually think that all of these guys, especially these linebackers and cornerbacks and safeties and tight ends, they're all going to be really good on special teams for this Giants team. And so I think that the early return on McFadden will be special teams, possibly some opportunities to blitz the quarterback, because we've seen him have success as a sack person from the middle of the field or for the middle of the second level. So we'll see if that's something he can do. But I think the thought process is probably special teams, spot duty this year, and then possibly beyond this year, if he's ready, turn it over to him and let him rock. I give that grade a B-. I thought the value was good. I thought there were probably some other areas where they may have been able to do some things, but a solid pick. Round 5, DJ Davidson, the defensive tackle out of Arizona State. Big guy who has a lot of explosiveness to him. He is a space eater, but there were other space eaters out there that I thought they could have gotten as well. They ended up not going with it. I think DJ Davidson is going to be a guy who comes in, he gives you depth, and gives you depth at that nose guard position. Possibly if they need to go with a heavy package, bringing in 2 defensive tackles, they could do that as well with Davidson out there in the fold as a massive guy. Another, I gave that pick a solid B-. Marcus McKeithen in round 5. He was the 3rd 5th round pick that the Giants had via trade. McKeithen, an offensive guard, massive offensive guard, 6'7", 340, I believe, out of the University of North Carolina, the 2nd North Carolina offensive lineman that they took. I believe that he is a guy who can be a road grader, He's going to struggle in the passing game, but that's okay. That's why he's playing guard. But he's going to be a road grader in the run game. So if he can get his body under control and get a little bit more fit and take advantage of his pop and his power and his ability to drive people off the ball, I think that he could be a great value, especially at the end of the 5th round. I gave that pick a B+. I don't think you're going to find size and strength like that out of an offensive lineman who started at an ACC Power 5 school. I think that he brings those traits, and if he continues to work on his body and get it better to be able to maximize his athleticism, the sky is the limit for him as a possible replacement in the future for some of those veterans that they brought in. And last but not least, round 6, pick number 182, Darian Beavers. I like the fact that they went back and got a guy from Cincinnati on a defense that's been very successful. You can never have enough guys who have an ability to rush the passer. Beavers has the ability to rush the passers. I'm actually surprised in this day and age that a guy like Beavers was still around at this point of the draft. But it's a great thing for Giants fans. And it's a great thing for the Giants because you get a guy who you can then bring in, and now you have this young, competitive, defensive edge group, linebacker group where everybody is fighting for snaps and where you can let them just get their gun off and go as 100% as they can and get them off the field and get another fresh body in there. I think that's what Darian Beavers provides. And I think that was an awesome pick. I gave this a B+ as well. So overall, Schoen's first draft leading the way. I think that he addressed 2 major needs towards the middle of the draft, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. I would say probably didn't pick some guys that I believed could have went in that time that would have made this team better instantly. I think he could have gotten more starters out of those sections than he did. But then I really like what he did in the back end, round 5 with McFadden, Davidson, McKeithen, and Beavers in round 6. So a good start. We'll look to see how those players play out. We'll get the chance to see them in rookie mini camps. We'll get the chance to see them out over the summertime, and we'll be talking about them right here on a Giant issue. Until next time, I've been Coach Gene Clemens. Make sure you check out my stuff at giantscountry.com. Make sure that you like, subscribe. Tell me, what grade did you give Schoen overall for his first draft? Was it an A? Was it a B? Was it a C? Was it something lower than that? And if so, please explain. I would love to know it. And until next Monday, you guys have a great one. We'll see you then.